Welcome to the Founders Code, the most authentic podcast for startup founders. I'm Shamil, founder at Fluid Labs, and here's the question that keeps me up at night. Why do we as founders willingly walk into chaos? The stress, the self-doubt, the endless decisions, and still we keep jumping back into the game. If you've ever asked yourself why, or just want to hear what it's really like behind those polished LinkedIn posts, you've come to the right place. This is a space for real, vulnerable, and honest conversations with founders who've been through the fire and are still climbing. Let's get into it. Hello, everyone, and welcome to today's special birthday episode. Because with the current speaker, it so happened that we have the birthday on the very same day, and we said, to help with it, let's shoot a podcast on the same day. So with us today, we have Kevin from Ravenna. Hi, Kevin.
Hi, Shamil. How are you, man? Happy birthday, first and foremost.
Thanks so much. Happy birthday to you too.
Oh, man, it was funny when we were talking about this a couple of weeks ago. It was like, my birthday's the 31st. You're like, my birthday's the 31st. I'm like, all right, well, we obviously have to do this on our birthdays.
Yeah. Can you tell us and the listeners a bit about you and the work that you do with Ravenna?
Yeah, 100%. So my name is Kevin Coleman. I live in Seattle, Washington. I'm one of the co-founders of a company called Ravenna. The company is about a year old. We are building a AI native internal help desk platform. So we help IT, revenue operations, people operations teams, effectively teams who operate internal help or service desks. First and foremost, we give them great software to organize their work that's deeply integrated with Slack, but then we use AI and also deterministic workflow automation to help them automate a wide swath of work that they weren't able to previously automate. So yeah, effectively helping these teams save a lot of time and effort so that they can focus on the things that really matter to the business.
Yeah. Also, Kevin is extremely modest. Him and his co-founder, Taylor, they've raised over 15 million from Coleman and Madrona to build their vision. So what do you think when you look at the industry? Because we have all these like giants like ServiceNow and all of those. How do you plan your strategy around those?
Yeah, it's a really great question. And one, you mentioned we've raised some money. We get that question a lot. So yeah, we are super fortunate to have been backed by some amazing venture capitalists, the folks over at Coastal, the folks over at Madrona, Founders Co-op, and a suite of awesome angels as well. So shout out to all those people. Can't tell you how much we appreciate that support. So it's interesting. We look at the landscape first and foremost. Enterprise service management is the category that we operate in, and you mentioned ServiceNow. They are certainly the giant on the hill, so to speak. They built a huge business helping companies with service management. It's a super large market that, in my opinion, is a little bit unheralded. Markets like CRM and some other categories get a lot of attention because I don't know, maybe more people are familiar with sales and like everybody's touched a CRM, but enterprise service management is a huge category in its own right. And effectively every company after you become 200 people in size needs this type of software to help organize and automate the internal operations work that the company needs to survive effectively and to thrive. And so I really look at the software that we're building as the grease in the enterprise gears, so to speak. It's how the sausage gets made. It's how collaboration happens internally. It's how that work gets organized. It's funny where this idea originally came from is I spent 4 years at AWS, and internally Amazon has a system called SIM that they built that does a very similar thing. It's an amazing tool. It's very bare bones, very basic. And I kind of recognize how critical this was to the enterprise as a whole at Amazon. And I thought, what does this tool look like if a startup that cared about design and user experience and cared about integrating this type of tool where people are already working, which is Slack, and then back then, 2024, going into 25, cared about automating things with AI and leveraging all this new technology. So there's three areas. This space is quite competitive. There's a lot of incumbents and whatnot. There's three areas, the way that my co-founder and I talk about it, 3 legs of the Ravenna product stool that we are going to be excellent at. And if you need these, you should probably come and talk to us. So number one, you already mentioned it, deep Slack integration. And really it's a team chat integration. We've got a very strong thesis that the support portal for your employees, where support is provided and where help desks are, it's Slack. Your employees don't want to go to some ticketing portal and fill out a form and wait for days to get support. They just want to go type a message into a Slack channel and get their request resolved, whether that's via a human or via AI. So number one, we are building the best in class and really best in industry Slack integration, and we're super proud of it. I've actually built large swaths of our Slack integration, and it's pretty badass. The second piece is practical AI and automation that leverages your existing data. So a lot of our competitors have AI, and they'll do things like RAG on top of your knowledge base to answer repetitive questions, but it works really well within their walled garden, i.e., if you use their knowledge base. We don't have a knowledge base in Ravenna. We work backwards from customers, and the overwhelming piece of feedback we got from customers was, look, we've got knowledge bases everywhere. We got it in Notion. We've got them in Google Drive. We've got them in Confluence. We've got web pages. So we play really nice with all of your existing data, and we bring in that content into our system. We keep it up to date, and we sync it, and then we give you really great answers and insight on top of your existing data. So practical application of AI is where we're going to be really good, and we deliver excellent, high quality, contextually relevant answers to questions. And then the third piece, and this is a little subtle, but really important for internal operations folks, is out of the box, beautiful analytics that are flexible and allow you to communicate with your team, with your org, with your leadership, the value that your internal operations team is bringing to the organization. That was a lot. Sorry. I don't know if you want to dive in on any of those.
What I like the most about your team is both you and Taylor, you're highly technical, right? You've spent, I think, 4 years in Amazon. Taylor spent some time in Zapier, working on AI. And I look at the classical founder teams, and it's usually somebody who's not technical and somebody who performs the role of CEO. How do you in turn juggle all of the functions between yourselves, being both highly technical?
It's a really good question. And it's kind of like the short answer is we've actually made a change recently that delineates responsibilities in a little bit more of a strong way. For the first year of the company, it was very much like, let's do whatever needs to get done on a weekly basis in order to push the ball forward. And so the large part of that was really three things: recruit an excellent team, build the product, and work with our early design partners as closely as possible, and just rinse and repeat every week. And so the team is up to 18 people at this point. We have gone beyond the design partner page or stage and have legitimate customers as well. And we do have a product at this point that we can sell. And so recently I have switched out of, we basically I've thrown off the shackles, or I've moved out of the engineering organization, so to speak, and I'm 100% focused on go-to-market. So 100% focused on sales, marketing, how we make the world know about Ravenna. And that was just a conversation between us where it's like, look, we think we're ready to sell this product, and it's kind of it's a founder problem to go and figure out the go-to-market, especially in the early stages for a company. And so one of us had to own it. And I was like, I want to go do this. This seems really fun. It seems like a puzzle to solve. And this is super important to the business. And also, if I'm honest, Taylor is incredibly, he's the best technical mind I've ever worked with. And he's incredible he's an incredible leader. The guy can build anything, and that people love working for him. You talk to anybody at Zapier, they loved Taylor over there. And so he's just there's nobody else in the world who I would rather work with to run an engineering team than Taylor. And so, so that's how he had, this is as of last week, literally just splitting up the responsibilities. So he's doing product and engineering now going forward, and I'm doing all of go-to-market until such time in the future when we decide to change things up, which I'm sure it will, because things change rapidly in startups.
And how do you find early startup B2B sales? Did you have any assumptions going in? Any challenges that you didn't expect?
It's not, I wouldn't say there are challenges that I didn't expect. I think that the long and short of it is it's hard and it's a grind. Especially I would say when you're in a category like ours and you've chosen to build a product like ours, which is, there are existing players. We're not building like ChatGPT before ChatGPT came out. So there are competitors in this space, and you got to sell against those competitors and answer the questions like you asked. How do you differentiate yourself, and how do you get potential buyers excited about buying your product as opposed to the n number of legacy players that exist? The first problem though is just making people aware of the company. And so how do you get yourself in the ball game, so to speak, and how do you make sure that the potential buyers are aware that Ravenna exists? And so That is more of a marketing challenge than a sales challenge. I have a good amount of sales experience between the startups that I've been at, between my time at AWS, but marketing in a startup is definitely a new muscle. And so, you hire for those types of things where you don't have coverage. And so we hired a head of growth who's got a marketing background and advertising background, who's definitely helping out there. But, one of the things that we think about a lot is how do we get our name out there? And one of those ways is content. So like doing things like this podcast. We actually have our own podcast, which you might be getting invited to come on at some point. So we've got the Ravenna podcast, which we're going to be publishing here over the next couple of weeks. We're doing a lot of stuff with our blog. We're doing a lot of stuff on LinkedIn, and basically like there is a line of thought that startups have to be content companies that happen to monetize via software nowadays. At least that's how I think about it, because you have to figure out a way to stand out. You have to figure out a way to reach your potential buyers, especially in an environment like today, where there are so many new AI native companies getting funded. And if you're a potential buyer, it's hard to figure out like which one of these companies I should pay attention to. So yeah, long story short, like it's a grind, man. And it's all about hustle, and it's all about trying to figure out creative ways to reach your buyer, get meetings on the calendar, get demos so you can showcase all the awesome stuff you're building.
Does the content game come easy to you?
No, it certainly does not.
We've all seen the videos on LinkedIn about you doing like, I think 7 showcases of Ravenna features.
Yeah, the launch week videos. Yeah. So if you go look me up on Instagram or Facebook or anything like that, I'm not there, because I just don't do social media really prior to Ravenna. And so one of the things that, I see friends around town, they're like, man, you're like all over LinkedIn now. I've like never seen this from you. And I'm like, yeah, you got to become, as a founder, you kind of got to become the cheerleader of your company and kind of surrender your persona online effectively to basically, further your company in whatever way possible that you can. And so yeah, it's definitely a growing muscle. It's something I'm getting more comfortable with, I would say, but it definitely doesn't come natural to me. And so, where I see some content creators and CEOs of companies who it looks like it's easy, but I'm sure behind the scenes, there's people helping them, people who are helping them write content and helping them come up with ideas and all that stuff. And we've got support in that capacity as well.
And that's the part of the entrepreneurship journey that I love to hear about, because I believe that for some people, some things come more naturally. That's why you have somebody a natural CEO, somebody a natural CTO. We have people who are natural born like content creators, like Gary
Totally.
Vaynerchuk, for example. It comes easy to him. Like the Cluely guy is all over the internet paying like a lot. But then for other founders, we know that this is something that will propel the company forward. We know this is something that doesn't come natural to us. And we have to find a way to still do it, to either make it easy for us to go through the hurdles of just trying to figure out and still do it, because that's your job as a founder.
It is. It's totally your job. We actually got really lucky because you mentioned Gary Vaynerchuk. There's a guy named Chase Jarvis who's kind of Gary's vintage of kind of early internet successful content creators. And so Chase is actually our landlord. He's a Seattle guy. He's like the coolest guy ever. He started his career as a world famous photographer, ski outdoor photography in the early 2000s. You can go look him up. He's awesome. And then he became a CEO of a company called Creative Live. Before that, he also had a really great podcast and a YouTube channel about being creative and about photography and all this. And so we lucked out. We ended up finding this office space, which is his, and we're the only tenant here. And he's become a friend of ours. And a couple months ago, like at the beginning of the year, when we first started, being in his office, we were telling him how we wanted to create this content, figure out this whole ball game. And he was like, "Guys, let me help you out. Like, I know how to do this. I've built huge communities." And he has been sort of a first of all, like we bought some equipment with him. So this mic, it's in his office. We share this mic with Chase, and
Thanks, Chase.
and he was basically. Do you know Chase? Have you heard of him? Okay, well, check him out. His content is awesome. He's got a very cool podcast. But he was basically like, "Look, you guys just got to do it. Like your first podcast, for example." He was like, "You need to record the first podcast to get to the second one." And so when we were scheduling the first one, we were kind of hemming and hawing and not like getting it on the calendar. And he finally was just like, "Guys, get in the studio," which is in the room right over there. He's like, "Get in the studio and record it. You're going to be bad, and that's okay. Like the point is, get the first one done so you get to the second one and you learn and you improve and you do that over time." And so, yeah, we've had a little bit of a cheat code there, I think, in the sense of like a guy who's in our corner who knows how to do this has been very helpful. But yeah, it's a content's hard, man. It's hard. It's a journey, especially for somebody like me who like likes to be, I don't know, a little bit more behind the shadows, but you got to do it for the brand, for the company.
Yeah.
And it can be fun at times. Like it's fun having conversations like this with you.
Yeah, but in order to get to this point, we have to go through the scary part, because like there are all of these like challenges that we have to solve psychologically within, because for us, like being out there with content, it's scary for some reason.
For sure.
For others, it's not.
100%.
And
100%.
once you start doing it, you actually realize there is so much fun, like in these connections and conversations.
For sure. For sure. That is one of the benefits. I mean, it is fun. Like the internet, facilitates these strange connections, but that end up being great. Like you reached out to me on LinkedIn. You're like, hey, like we should do something. And I'm like, yeah, we should do something. Now we're doing a birthday pod. So like, it's great how things like that happen.
And what's your favorite part about Seattle?
Man. So I'm a Seattle kid. I was born in New Jersey, but my family moved out here when I was 6 months. So I've grew up here, moved away for a little bit of time, but now we're back here. My wife and I, our families are both from here. Our kids are going to grow up here. So I love Seattle. I think my favorite part about Seattle is how I love doing things outdoors, and the outdoors here are so accessible. And it's very easy to get to the mountains. It's very easy to get to the sound. It's very easy to get to the lake and go swimming. Like the outdoors in Seattle are extremely accessible and like world class. It's one of the like contrasts I draw to between Seattle and San Francisco. Like in San Francisco, it's on the bay, but it's like hard to like access the water. The water's cold. You don't want to swim in it. It's hard to get on a boat. Like it's expensive to have a boat down there. Whereas in Seattle, like the lake is right here. Like everybody's on the lake in the summer. There's like plenty of beaches. You can just go swimming. Same thing with skiing. Like there's amazing mountains that are an hour outside of Seattle or 2 hours outside of Seattle. In the Bay Area, you got to like drive to Tahoe for 4 hours. If you're lucky, you're fighting traffic. So it's just everything outdoors feels inaccessible up there. Whereas in Seattle, it's great. Like I feel like we're always outdoors, especially in the summer when the weather is just amazing up here in the summer. And so, yeah, I think like outdoors, the outdoor aspect of Seattle is definitely my favorite.
And how do you, during stressful moments, whether building companies or before even starting Ravenna, how do you clear your head? Like you talk a lot about being outdoors. Do you have any special practices that you do?
So in the past, it was definitely fly fishing for me. Fly fishing is like meditation. If you've ever done it, like the rhythm of, casting a fly rod and being out in nature and solitude, like that's definitely like my top way to unwind. Um, I don't have much time to do that anymore between my work and my kids. And so like, I think my kids are spending time with my family is like the way to unwind now, despite the fact that my kids are 2, 4, and 6 and like an absolute handful and crazy. They are a very great way to take my mind off the company and everything that's going on here and kind of like ground me back in what is the most important thing in my life, which is my family and them and their health and happiness and all of that. And so yeah, like the way I unwind is basically by spending time with my family and being able to detach myself from the company a little bit.
How has your life changed when you started having kids?
Drastically, I would say. It's funny, you kind of go through this progression of you have your first kid. Do you have kids, by the way?
We're about to start. So
Amazing, man.
that's why I'm also.
Amazing. Sorry, I've got a thumbs up bubble on the screen here. When is your baby due?
Oh, not yet. We're just planning now.
Okay, awesome.
We just started planning.
I love amazing, man. So they like, your first kid comes and you think that oh my gosh, there's so much work having one kid. It's crazy. And then the second kid comes and you're like, oh, one kid wasn't that crazy. 2 kids is nuts. And then the third kid comes and you're like, man, one kid was nothing. Like 3 kids is crazy. And you kind of, the way I kind of describe it is you kind of surrender like your personal time and just more, like you just surrender more and more of it the more that kids come, to the point where like by the time you have 3 kids, like your personal time is basically gone. And your personal time is your family time now and your kids' time. And you're also like not living, excuse me, you're not like living as much for yourself now as much as you are for your kids and your family. And so it's this weird psychological thing that happens where like your priorities just rapidly shift to like everything before that is me, me, me. You might get married, it's you and your wife, but after you have kids, it's like it's all about your children.
And how'd you go through that transformation internally? Because probably prior to having kids, you would have like an internal, maybe a little selfish side where you want your own time, you want your own space. You know, there is work, but then there is time for Kevin. And now that you have kids, you kind of have to surrender that part of yourself
For
and
sure, for sure.
develop something new.
You have to, and it's kind of like I think every new parent like goes through, I don't know, like this is might sound like a bad way to put it, but the grief of like losing your free time. But then like your kids come and you realize, oh wait, like my selfish free time wasn't even nearly as cool as it is hanging out with my kids, especially as they get older. Cause like once you're on the kid train, like things just get better every day, like as they get older. And the first 6 months for a dad are like, you got a little baby, you can't really do anything. They're attached to your mother. But then after that, like everything just gets better every day. And like they go through the extremely cute phases where like everything they do is very cute, and then they get older and then they start doing things like playing sports and dancing and all the fun things that they do, and you get to go through that with them. And then like you realize like this is way better than like whatever the heck I was doing in my early 30s or early 20s, whereas that was still fun. Like nothing compares to raising and grow and spending time with your kids and watching them grow. And so I don't know. It's a transition that every parent goes through, but I don't know what's better in life. To be honest with you, I haven't found anything yet.
And did you bring any lessons from the way that you were brought up as a kid to your parenthood now?
Yeah, definitely. My It's so funny. My dad has a saying. Um, okay, you might have to pause the video at some point because I got to remember this.
It's fine. We can
Oh,
talk.
sorry. So so my dad has a saying that he has three things that he had to give his kids. So I have four brothers, so we have five boys in my family. So yeah, crazy household to grow up in. Bunch of maniacs. So three things: please and thank yous. So manners, a good education, and good teeth. That was like my dad's three things for whatever reason. So we all had braces for years. But the pleases and thank yous, I think, is more around how you raise good human beings who are kind, who are compassionate, who treat people in the right way, who are polite, um, and who are just good people. And so that's something that my wife and I very much care about is raising like whole humans who are kind people, who are thoughtful people, who are curious people. And I think my parents did a great job doing that with my brothers and I. You and other people can be the judge of that, but I definitely take learnings from them. And I think back fondly on my childhood and want to give my kids, a similar childhood to what they gave me.
Were you the oldest, the youngest?
I'm the middle, straight in the middle.
In the
Yeah, I have
middle.
two older brothers and two younger brothers, and we're all in Seattle, which is great. So we spend a ton. Or sorry, we're four and a half of us are in Seattle. My youngest brother splits his time between New Orleans and Seattle.
Like since you were a kid, did you have a lot of competitions with them? Like,
But yeah,
did it feel
100%.
very competitive?
Absolutely, very competitive. I mean, I don't think you can have five boys who are playing sports all the time and um, very competitive people for sure. The house was always playing sports, always yelling and screaming. I won, you won, no, you didn't win. All that fun stuff. We celebrated my older brother. He's a year older than me. He's my best friend in the world. We celebrated his birthday, his 40th birthday last weekend, and we were talking about we were growing up. We actually weren't very close friends because we were quite competitive, and he loved needling me. He was just better than me at everything, like better than me at sports, smarter than me in school, just way better than me, and loved letting me know it. And it would drive me crazy as a kid. But then you grow up and you mature and you realize, wow, we actually do really like each other. And so it's funny.
So the two things that I've noticed: one, you develop really good social skills because you have a lot of people to talk to when you're young, with your brothers, and the second is something that does provide some sort of motivation when as you get older.
In terms of like competitive motivation.
Yeah, yeah.
Maybe.
Or
I mean, the social skills thing probably. Like my kid, one of the things with my kids, I think, is like they're like my oldest daughter. We say she's 6, and we say she's like 6 going on 30, because she'll just have like full on conversations with adults, and adults are like, "What is this 6-year-old kid having a full on conversation?" And I think that's because she hangs around my brothers a lot, and she's always with adults, and I've been with them forever. And so, yeah, maybe being around that many people has helped with social skills. From a competitive nature, like maybe I'm not sure, to be honest with you. Like I'm definitely competitive in a business sense, and like I want to win straight up. And like I don't think you want to like go start a business unless you have that competitive side, because it is such a grind and it's so hard, and you have to want to win and you have to want to make an impact in order to be successful doing this. I think for the most part, I'm sure there's exceptions to that rule. I don't know if that competitiveness comes from growing up. Maybe it does, to be honest with you. Maybe it helped.
and have you found your why, your real internal motivation that drives you?
I think my why has probably changed over time. So I think like before, so this is the second company I've started. The first one was we started back in 2016, same co-founder. I think back then my why was more like not only wanting to like I feel like there's a number of whys. Wanted to I like figuring out how systems work. Or I like how figuring out how things work, right? So like I mentioned fly fishing earlier. When I first got into fly fishing, like I wasn't so much interested in like the catching the fish aspect. Like I just wanted to figure out how to do it, like how like the flies were put together, how to make your own flies, what kind of lines you needed, what kind of rods you needed, how the current worked, how you need to read current, like where you needed to be in order to catch these fish. And so it's just like a system that I had to put together, a puzzle that I had to figure out. And so I find that I like doing that. And I think like company building is like that to a certain extent. Like I feel this, I don't know, this insane need to like figure out how these games work and how to build a company and how to hire people and how to acquire customers and how to build product and how all those pieces come together to like produce a brand that people love and a product that companies can buy. Um, I like figuring that out is a thing. Like delighting customers is a thing. Being successful as an individual in your career is a thing. And so there were all these probably extrinsic motivations earlier on. Now, like my why is 100% like my family and my kids and being successful for them. Not only like providing them a life that I want to provide for them, but also showing them what hard work looks like, and that you can just do things if you want and if you're willing to take risk and if you're willing to put yourself out there enough. Like I hope that my kids, they're really young now, but they'll obviously grow up like as we're doing this company, that they will see the things that I have done. And also my wife works and has this thriving career at Nordstrom, and the things that she's doing in her career, and understand the value of hard work and the things that can come from that. um, so yeah, I definitely have like I don't think there's like one thing I could point to that's like this is the root reason that I'm doing this. But like if I had to point to one, it's very much like trying to be the best I can be for my family and in particular for my kids.
Mhm. What kind of person do you want to be for your family, or you're trying
What
to
kind of
get them
person?
to?
It's a hard question, man. I mean, I want to be as good of a dad and husband as I can be. I think like it's hard to be as best you can be at all times with everything going on at a company. But you know, um, I want to be present for my kids. I want to make time for my kids. I want to make sure that, I coach my son and my daughter in softball. Um, make sure that I'm there to do those things, and um, not like I definitely will not be the absentee entrepreneur dad. Like you hear about people who um, get divorced because their companies they're so ingrained in their company, and it destroys their personal lives and all that, and that will absolutely not happen with me. And I'm actually fortunate because my co-founder Taylor, he's got 2 young kids as well. So the biggest difference between the first company and this company is there were no kids. Well, actually he had his first kid right after we started the company, but now we've got 5 kids with this company. And so for us, like being an excellent dad is priority number 1, straight up. And so it's hard juggling the time that it requires for the company, and then also making sure that you're a great husband and a great father and whatnot. But it's something that is just critically important to us. I think that's important to the company as a whole as well, because the people we hire, like, they need to know that that's a priority as well. And despite the fact that it's a startup and we are going to work our asses off and make sure that we make this company successful, like, you are still an individual at the end of the day, and you still have family that matters to you and people in your life that you got to take care of, et cetera. And that's something that we care about as founders of the company, that you're able to do that still if you're at Ravenna as well. And that's something we talk openly about with people when we're talking about joining the company as well.
What are some other aspects of the culture that you're trying to look for in the people that you bring on board?
Yeah, so we have so at Amazon, Amazon's got their leadership principles, right? I'm not sure if you've ever seen Amazon's leadership principles, but if you talk to anybody who's been at Amazon, it's like religion there. And so, like, when you're interviewing, they tell you, like, go study the leadership principles, and like, this is what you're going to get interviewed on. And then you think, like, going through the interview process, that you study these, and then, like, you're not going to talk about them at all after you get in. It's kind of like you do this dog and pony show to get into the company, and then you're off and on your way. But in reality, like, everybody lives and dies by these leadership principles in Amazon. Like, they're talked about every day. It's a great framework for making decisions. And so we have not leadership principles here, but we have values, obviously, that we kind of we haven't like we don't call them LPs, but it's the same concept. Like, you want to have values for the business that your team understands, that you communicate to people who are joining the company, and then they are kind of guardrails for how the company operates and how you make decisions. So a couple of the leadership principles, or a couple of the values that we have at Ravenna, are we phrase it a little bit differently, but effectively a bias for action, or bias for decision making in the face of uncertainty. We care about high agency people who are able to act autonomously and make good decisions independently. We would much rather people move forward and then be able to course correct down the line, as opposed to sitting there and waiting for somebody like Taylor or myself or somebody else in the company to make a decision for them. And that relates to another of our values, which is speed. The only advantage you have as a startup is your ability to go at a breakneck pace. You're never going to have more money than your competitors. You're never going to have more technical talent, for the most part. You're never going to have as good of a product moat. You're never going to have as good a distribution. But what you can do is outpace these guys all day long. And it's speed across decision making, like I mentioned. It's speed across how you communicate with customers. It's speed across how you build product. Speed across how you get back, like how quickly you're responding to people. Like, the clock speed of the organization has to be so high. And so we look for people who have like an internal sense of urgency, if you will. And that's a hard one to interview for. But you want people in a startup who will viscerally get on board with the thought process that, like, if we don't move as fast as possible, we're gonna die. The company will not cease to exist, and we're going to go have to find other jobs. And so you look for people who have that engine and that motor, that internal innovation, and just want to go fast, want to build stuff really fast. And like, the people who hate corporate bureaucracy and culture, and who are in big companies, then like are losing their mind because they can't get stuff done. If you're that type of person, come to a startup, man, and you're going to be able to go as fast as possible, and your life is going to be, you're going to be happy. We care also about people who are effective communicators, especially in a remote setting, and who enjoy collaborating with the team. So, like, we've got a third of the team in Seattle, and then 2/3 of the team are dispersed around the US, and then we've got some folks overseas. You have to be an active participant in the company, and like practical things like actively visible in Slack. You have to communicate effectively in a way that is almost unnatural. Like, you have to continuously check in through the day and see where you can help, and make sure people are aware of where you're at and what you're working on and help that you need. And so active communication and participation and a willingness to do that, and not just like sit in a hole and, do your code or whatever, but like be a part of the team and be a part of pushing the team forward, is something that we highly value as well. I'll pause there, see if you have any questions on that.
I need to ask, what kind of role did aggression play in your journey is to become an effective founder who protects the culture, and can use aggression as an energy for good?
I don't know if I don't know if aggression is the right word. I mean, I get what you're getting at. Like, the
Assertiveness.
Assertiveness for sure, but it's also like I care desperately about it. Maybe obsession might be a better word. I care, like I'm obsessed with this logo here. I'm obsessed with Ravenna, and it's not just like building a successful company. I'm obsessed with like getting the best people in the company to help us win. I'm obsessed with building the best product that is beautiful and a delight to use and customers love it. I'm obsessed with figuring out how to acquire customers in a cost-effective way and figuring out that puzzle. And I'm obsessed about like building a culture that we all collectively love. Like Taylor and I say this thing where like we want Ravenna to be the best place. Like if you're in Seattle and you're a technical person or you're a engineer or excuse me, a technology person, like we want Seattle or we want Ravenna to be the coolest place to work. Like we want everybody to be like, man, I want to go get a job there. We're definitely not there yet, but we're working on it. And so I think it's just like like you got to be obsessed with this stuff. You got to be obsessed with putting the puzzle together, and you have to like that obsession makes you hold a high bar. It makes you, yeah, it just like it makes sure that you've got really high standards across all these areas. And so, I think at times people can get frustrated with people like me or other founders who've got that really high bar and want things to be, I don't know if it's perfect all the time, but want things to be a really high quality bar because like everything that touches the company and the brand matters at the end of the day. Like every LinkedIn post I put out matters. Every video clip we put out, it matters. Every blog post matters. And sometimes you can get kind of mired in like good enough. And good enough, like for an early stage startup, is often not going to be good enough to win at the end of the day. And so, yeah, I think maybe it's obsession might be the better word than aggression. Um,
Because it's
yeah,
one of the best and strongest qualities that I identify with founders who actually make a difference and do build big companies. Because I've definitely had a few people in my career who were just afraid of being seen as not nice or bad. And they would see that something that they don't like and they would internalize that frustration and they wouldn't be able to actually speak out and correct things when obviously they needed to be corrected. And can we go back to your journey before Amazon, even
yeah,
when you and Taylor started Mesh Studio, right? Can you tell us like how did you and Taylor just decide to that's what we're gonna do?
so yeah. Oh man, we're going back. So this was 9 years ago now, 10 years ago. Um, so we both went down to Taylor and I have a long history of working together. We basically like both quit our jobs in finance to get into technology totally independently. We got connected by a mutual friend of our mother's and realized we were doing the same things. And we just decided like, hey, we don't know anybody who's learning how to code. This is before like the coding academies and the MOOCs of the world came out. And so we were like, all right, let's just help each other. So that kind of kicked off our collaboration. We both went down to San Francisco and got jobs at startups around the same time. I went to a company called Layer. He went to a company called Chariot. His company was more successful than ours. They got bought by Ford. Layer had a good run, but ended up shutting down. But while we were down there, we kind of got immersed in startup culture, and we saw the people around us raising a bunch of money and building companies. And again, like the quote, the meme, like you can just do things. And it was kind of that attitude where it's like, look, we're building these products that like we are the ones who are actually building the products that our companies are selling and making some money on. Like we know how to do this to a certain extent. Why don't we go and try? And so we applied to Y Combinator and we got into the YC fellowship. And so we did that for the summer. And the original product was called Mesh Data. And we were building what is now known as like a reverse ETL platform. We didn't know what we were doing though. We didn't know how to sell. We didn't know how to talk to customers. So like it was just it was kind of dead on arrival, to be honest with you. But a very good learning experience. And we have like an amazing network of people through YC now. And that has been like, has been
And can you
YC for
tell me
anybody,
about
like go through it. Sorry, go ahead.
can you tell me about some of those experiences? Because you went through them quite quickly, but I can imagine there were a lot of frustrating moments and challenges that you had to
For
overcome.
sure. For sure. I mean, I distinctly remember like going down to the YC offices the kickoff day and just being like mortified or petrified, I guess it would be the word, because you have such strong imposter syndrome. And every like you think, you get into the YC and like you're like, oh, this idea that we're building is really cool and it's good, and then you get down there and you meet like all these other high agency founders who have all these crazy ideas, and you're like, wow, like is my product any good? Like, is what we're doing actually good? Or like, did they just kind of make a mistake on me? Like they just kind of like, they just slipped me in there and like, we're not really supposed to be here.
And then you
Like
realize everyone else feels the same.
Yes, I think, although there are some pretty awesome people in our class. Like one of the guys, I think his name is Zach. We met him out in the parking lot, and he's like, "Oh, I'm building, or I'm like I think if he was a biologist, but he was building, he was making a hangover cure, where he was like, I figured out this way that like, the body a chemical can like break down the proteins or the enzymes or whatever that like your liver secretes when you drink alcohol, and I can just like help you not have hangovers." And I was just like, that's incredible. Like, this is amazing. You're like, hard science. Of course you should be here. And his company is still thriving today, which is awesome. So anyways, the program was like a pressure cooker, because you just feel like you need to deliver and you need to acquire customers as rapidly as possible. And it became pretty evident to us pretty fast that we didn't have an ICP. We didn't know what we were like, who we were selling to. And that's like one of the critical things you got to figure out in the early days of a startup. We didn't even know like the problem that we were trying to solve really well. Like we had this developer problem, which was, we have all this customer data that needs to get into all these SaaS tools. So let's just build an integration platform. But we would go around to customers, and our pitch would be like, hey, you have customer data problems. Let us help them solve them for you. And everybody would be like, of course we have customer data problems. But we didn't know how to but all the problems were different, right? And so we didn't know how to really drill and identify like a specific thread, if you will, or a specific pain that was generalizable across a lot of customers that we could go and solve for. We were just like immature in how we talked to customers and how we dug for pain, and really did like the product management aspect of it. And so shortly after YC, like we realized it wasn't going to work. We also didn't know how to raise money, and like we didn't know how to just do the company thing. And if I'm honest, I think we were a little bit scared at the time as well. And so we rapidly flipped the company into a consultancy, which ended up working out well.
I've looked at the Wayback Machine, and
No
looked at the
way,
landing page.
nice.
Oh yeah, and the two cases that you've showcased were Staples and O or something. Can you talk about
August?
those deals? August, yeah.
Yeah, August Locks.
Can
The
you tell?
Staples deal was wild. So what happened there was, and that deal like basically made our company to a certain extent. So that the product I was building at the startup in San Francisco was a SDK that you would put into mobile phones to help add chat to your application. So if you wanted to add chat, you could add it in a day. And Layer had like all the backend infrastructure and everything like that. So we just made it very easy for you. So Staples had this innovation lab in Seattle that was experimenting with like AI back in the day. So like, intent entity recognition type AI, not all the LLM stuff that we have now. But they were building chat into their application, and they wanted to have this thing they called the easy system. So do you remember the easy button? The button that you press and it would say, that was easy.
No.
I don't know if you ever saw that, but it was like this big marketing campaign that Staples had back in the day. And if you go Google the easy button, like it's a physical red button that it says easy on it. You click it, it says that was easy. So they're trying to build this AI system, which is called the easy system. Okay. And the idea was that you could chat with the AI to order products. They were struggling to get the SDK integrated. And so the CEO of my previous company called me and said, hey, do you guys need any work? And we had just shut down our company. And so we did. And he was like, these guys need help integrating this SDK. Can you do it? And I was like, yes, of course. So we got our first contract there with them. We did some good work for them. They were working with both Taylor and I. And then they came to us and said, hey, look, like we've got not only visions of doing this with chat, but we actually want to build a hardware button like that is the easy button, but like we're going to make it like the Amazon Alexa, an Amazon Alexa. So you can talk to it to order products through Staples. And so we've been working with this team, offshore team, to get this done. They're not being able to figure it out. We would like you guys to build an external team for us to execute on this if you want. And basically, like, the reason they wanted to do that is because, or the way they told us, is that they had kind of hiring caps internally for salary bands and whatnot, and they couldn't get exceptional talent at the company. And like, what engineer wants to go work for Staples, at that time, or like good engineers. But they were like, we think you guys probably can hire people better than us, and we have a different budget that we can allocate to contractors. And so Taylor and I were like, all right, great. Let's throw out like a big number and see if it works. And Sam Altman had this quote at the time. I think he was like, you don't get like ask for things because you never know if you might get a yes, or ask for big things. And so we just threw out a big number that we thought was really big. And they said, great, go do it. So we signed a contract. It was a 7-figure contract, which is great. We were like, wow, this is crazy. So like we were off and on our way. And so we had to go hire a team. And then we basically worked with, they had 2 amazing hardware companies, one who designed the hardware and one who did the firmware and the software down in San Francisco, who we worked with. We built out the entire software side of the stack. So we built out a streaming audio protocol so we could stream audio in real time to our back end. We worked with a bunch of Watson APIs, funny enough, because they had agreements with IBM. Watson APIs to do speech to text, and then text to speech, and all the intent and entity recognition. And then we built a big logic engine on the back end to be able to route requests appropriately to Staples APIs, so that at the end of the day, you could say, hey, easy, I need to order blue pens. And it would respond in sub 1 second and say, great, I've added blue pens to your cart. And so we did it. We got it done. It was fun. We went down to the World of Watson conference like 5 months later, and the easy button was like the belle of the ball at the Watson conference. They were on stage with Ginny Rometty, like showing big images of the button and whatnot. And that funding, effectively, that contract got like enabled us to hire our team. It gave us runway to be able to go and be selective about other customers that we were going to work with, and kind of got the company off the ground.
And what was the strategy of growing Mesh at that time? Were you
Not
looking
not
at
not a ton of
opening?
strategy, man. It was basically like, let's just work through our network and find customers wherever we can. So it was, making sure people were aware that we are a business now and we are in play. One, like the biggest failing that I have from that journey, and if anybody's listening to this and wants to do a consultancy, when you do a consultancy, you have to be very specific about what you're excellent at. So you should be like a iOS company or a Node.js company or a software, like a hardware, like whatever it is, you got to be very specific, because when companies hire consultancies, they want to hire the best in the world at that. We were very generic. So we would come in and say, hey, we're software engineers. We're a software consultancy. We can build anything you want. And we thought that was the right thing to do because we didn't want to miss deals. Like we could build iOS, we could build Android, we could build web, we could build backend, like whatever you want, we could figure it out. But like, that's not what the buyer wants to hear. And so that was like the biggest mistake we made. Like out of the gate, we got Staples and we got August Locks. And so we were an IoT consultancy effectively, but we didn't want to brand ourselves as such, but we totally should have, because I think that would have helped in a big way.
I'm writing this down because at the moment I'm running an IT consultancy as well. So this is
Specifics help, man. I mean, even now, like with our company, like you got to be precise about what we do. So like our product helps internal service teams deliver exceptional service to their customers via our modern ticketing system and our automation capabilities. Like even that, we should probably be more precise with how we talk about Ravenna. Like I feel like you can never be precise enough, especially in the early days of a business.
and that specifically helps you with the go-to-market structure because it's
It
easier
helps
to
with
identify as
everything,
ICP.
man. It helps with like the assets you create. It helps with what you talk about. It helps sales cycles as well, because when buyers have to kind of like work with you to figure out how they can leverage you, that's just like more work that you're putting on them. You want it to be very clear when you come into a conversation, like your company should be the best in the world at X, or one of the best in the world at X, and that just makes the buying decision that much easier.
And how would you advise either consultancies or startup founders who are looking at different features and who to develop features for? How do you pick the right thing to be specific about?
Is the question more around like how to pick the right idea to work on, or how to like position things?
I think positioning wise.
It's hard, man. Like it's Michael Gingrich, who's the CEO of WorkOS, had something on LinkedIn the other day, which I thought was really, really interesting. WorkOS, for the first 2 years of the company, said they didn't make any money, and their sales, you sold to learn, and you sold to understand like what messaging worked and what positioning worked and how customers reacted to the things that you were saying. And I thought that was really insightful because like you don't know how the market is going to receive what you are trying to share with them and what you are telling them about your product. And you have to learn over time as you have conversations and figure out what resonates. And so we experiment a lot. And like we're literally going through this right now where we have 3 verticals that we target, which is IT, RevOps, and People Ops. And like the messaging should be different for each of those because their jobs and the things they do on a daily basis are slightly different. And their core workflows that they need to automate are different. And so we spend like every one of my sales calls, like I spend the first probably 10, 15 minutes just asking questions because I'm constantly trying to learn, like, how did you find out about us? What did you think about our website? Like, what were your expectations of our product before you came into this call? Because that's all gold. Like, I've got an idea of what I want potential customers to know about Ravenna before they come into the call. But if they come in with wildly different expectations, that's a problem that we got to fix. And so I don't know, man. Like I very much believe like part of the early journey and part of the early job of a founder is like you got to figure out how to message this messy vision in your head to your customers in the most succinct way so that they will understand what you're trying to do in the ways that you want them to understand what you're trying to do.
And what I notice is a lot of young founders, first-time founders, without having a proper experience of working for larger companies, structured companies with everything worked out, and they try to figure it out by themselves. With you, you've had a little bit of experience before starting Mesh, and then you've had 4 years in a very well-oiled structure before starting Ravenna. What could you say changed in you between those periods of your life?
Yeah, I mean, first of all, if you're trying to go it alone, I would just recommend not. Like we all kind of like as I get older, like when I was younger, I think I thought I knew a lot more than I did. And now when I'm older, I feel like I don't know anything, and I'm just like hyper aware to the fact that like I have significant personal and professional gaps and you got to find people who can help you fill those 100%. So like finding excellent people who you can hire and bring into your company is very important. But then also having like, first of all, feedback is a gift. And so despite if it's going to be negative or positive, like you have to find people who will help check you and like give you feedback on the things you're doing well, the things you're doing wrong, and help kind of shape you. And so I'm super fortunate in that I have that with my co-founder Taylor. We've got that with our investors, and we have very open and clear lines of communication around feedback. I have that with our employees as well, like open door from a feedback perspective. Like I want them to tell me how I'm doing as a leader. But I don't know, like over the last 8 years, call it like this journey that you go through, like again, company building to me is very much a puzzle. And you got to figure out how the game works, and you got to figure out how to put all the puzzle pieces together in order to build a good product, a good team, a successful company, a brand that is aspirational that people really, really love. And so I'm constantly trying to learn and constantly trying to figure out like, how do you do this? Like, how are the various things that you do? And so over the time during Mesh Studio, we tried a bunch of things. A lot of things didn't work. Some things did. And so you pick up some things and you put those in your bag of tricks that you can pull forward. My 4 years at Amazon, I learned a ton. Amazing people there who are super sharp, who are very well accomplished, have done amazing things in your career. And you kind of pick up some things there. And then since over the last year, since starting this company, we've learned a ton as well. And so it's almost like scar tissue. Like you accrue this stuff over time. And you build up this muscle of like knowing how to react and building intuition around how to make decisions in a more effective way and a faster way as well. And I don't think you get that. Like you can't read about that in a book. You can't get that via MBA. Like you get that, this being a founder, like you get that by like going through the grind, putting in the time, putting in the work, and it just accrues over time.
What are some of the biggest lessons that you've learned for yourself that you wish you would have known before starting Mesh?
Oh man, tons. So one of the biggest ones we talked about already, which is like being very clear about like your differentiation as a company and how you exist in your customer's mind. I think One of the biggest things, couple really big learnings this time around. Being very clear on who your customer is and what problems you want to solve for them, or what problems they have. Also, not even what you want to solve, but like what problems they actually have that are acute enough that they will put down their checkbook. That's like priority numero uno for a person who's building a product. So Taylor and I have spent a lot of time and effectively money building software that nobody has used and products that weren't successful. And I think technical people or engineers bias towards building because they can. And they're like, I just want to build something and get it out. And then I'll go and like get people to look at it and give me feedback. But that's the wrong approach. The right approach is go talk to a lot of customers before you write a single line of code. It's hard to go find a lot of people on LinkedIn and have them give you 30 minutes of your time. It's scary to reach out to those people, but you have to do it because you are either going to prove your thesis is right and learn a lot that's going to impact your roadmap in a meaningfully better way, or you're going to disprove your theses and you're going to throw away the idea, which is equally important because you're not going to spend months building and trying to do something and wasting all of that time. So we were, before we wrote a single line of code for Mesh, we went out and interviewed 30 plus people. And we were like, we need to understand who our ICP is and what problems they have so that we can solve the right problems for them. And that, like, you have to do that. Like, there's no ifs, ands, or buts about it for company building. I've heard of founders who go out and talk to hundreds of customers before that. That's amazing. If you can do that, you should totally do that. But at a minimum, like, you got to go talk to a lot of customers before you start building anything, because you have to be clear on who your customer is, what that ICP is, the ideal customer profile, and what specific problems you're solving for them that are acute enough that they will give you money and put down their checkbook.
And now for over, let's say, 10 years now that you've known Taylor and worked with him, the kind of relationship that you have right now and the way you talk about him is pretty much the union that like every founder kind of wishes to have. What is the secret to making it work?
Good question, man. I feel like if you are fortunate to work with somebody as long as we have, again, you develop scar tissue, you've kind of had like all the fights you're going to have as a founder or as co-founders, and you kind of get to this point where there's just a ton of trust, back and forth, and like egos out the window, and you are just both completely aligned on like the ultimate objective, which is building a successful company and doing it while being good, kind people who care about the people in the organization and care about the customers, et cetera. I think that communication, in large part, or lack of effective communication, is like one of the root of all problems. So like lack of effective communication and letting ego get too far into the equation of people. There's this really good article in the internal YC forum that, and I think this person has I forget his name, but he has a company that helps co-founders, helps founder relationships. And he talks about like the root of a lot of founder conflict is in the belief from somebody, one side of the equation, that the other person is not pulling their weight, is not as invested, is not doing what needs to be done from that person's perspective to make the company successful. And so I've never felt that with Taylor, but like, being able to provide rapid feedback, like you talked earlier about people who don't provide feedback fast, they just internalize problems. Like that is failure mode, 100%. Like you have to be comfortable in giving your co-founder, your employees, whomever you're working with, feedback, and having a productive conversation around, here's what like I'm seeing, and I would like to have a conversation about it to make sure that like my feedback is valid and like we progress in a positive way, as opposed to just letting that fester and letting frustration grow. And so one of the things I am very thankful for with Taylor is that we are constantly giving each other feedback. It's constantly positive and it's constantly negative. And it's great because, and not negative, constructive, because we are constantly shifting or course correcting each other to make sure that we are acting, or performing as best as we can. And so if you find a co-founder who you can have those types of conversations with, like that's where you want to be. You there? Did I lose you?
Yeah. And Seattle internet's cut out.
Yeah, it just did it finish? It cut out like right when I was closing that.
Yeah, I think over the last couple of words.
God damn it. Do you want me to try and say it again?
Maybe part of it. I'll
Okay.
stitch them together.
Yeah, no worries. So anyways, in closing, like if you find a co-founder who you can have that effective, feedback conversation and be able to, first of all, get ego out of the room and recognize that if somebody is giving you feedback, it is in the best interest of you as a person, in the best interest as you as a professional, in the best interest of you as a company, and you are open to receiving that feedback and the person is as well, you're going to have a good relationship, a good constructive relationship, I think. If you let ego come in the room and you don't want to receive feedback and you think you're the bee's knees and that you know how to do everything and the other person doesn't know what they're talking about, like from my perspective, that's failure mode. So I feel very fortunate that Taylor and I have that relationship. And it's just something that's been, productive and healthy for us for going on 12 years at this point.
And what are you most excited about for the next 10 years?
I'm just excited about building this company, to be honest with you. You when you raise money, you always get questions around like, what's your exit strategy, which I think is a bad question. Because like at this stage of the company, like nobody has unless you're like master fundraiser, master orchestrator, like you're going to sell your company in 2 years. Like what I think about is building a big company, building a big consequential company that is like one of the coolest and best companies in the Northwest, right? West Coast as a whole. Over the next 10 years, like you could come to me with any job in the world and say, hey, Kevin, you could have this job and not your job. And I would say no, because like, I don't want to be doing anything else. So when you ask me about exit strategy or anything like that, there is no exit strategy. The only strategy is we are going to make this company as successful as possible. We are going to work as hard as we can in order to build a large consequential technology company, try and make it the coolest place to work in the Northwest. If you're a technology person, delight customers along the way, help people grow in their careers and build an awesome team. And that's like the only thing that I want to do. So that in concept, building this business is what gets me really excited over the next 10 years.
Well, thanks so much for giving your birthday time today.
Thank you as well.
You have a fantastic story and you are an amazing human being. And thanks so much for coming on the show and sharing all of that today.
Thank you, sir. Thank you for having me. I know it's getting to nighttime where you're at, so I hope you've had an awesome birthday. I hope you have an awesome birthday eve. And yeah, man, thanks so much. This has been fun.
Likewise.
All righty. Bye-bye.
That's a pot.